And welcome back. Daylight Africa is an exceptional travel initiative presenting captivating and transformative experiences through the mesmerizing African continent. Now, dedicated to fostering cultural exploration as well as historical discovery and meaningful community engagement, Daylight Africa is devoted to delivering travelers with genuine and authentic encounters that surpass the usual tourist experiences. And here now to share more, I've got the founder of Daylight Africa, Sheikh Musa Drammeh, and Sheikh, good to have you.
Thank you so
Good to
much.
see you
Thank
again,
you
my
for having
brother.
me again.
Listen, I'm interested in this because there's a couple of things that I'll get to in our time of sharing. One is that I think let's talk locally abroad.
Okay.
There is this disconnect between the African community. I'm not saying African American, African community and community. I'll just put it like that. Particularly here in New York City. Agree?
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's on the part of Africans. I'm saying it's on the part of community that sometimes ignorance
Yes.
can keep us marginalized.
Absolutely. Yes. And we have been fighting tooth and nail to make sure that such divisive elements within us will no longer exist. I remember a couple of years ago when there was a incident on Webster Avenue between 170 and 171. A New York Times reporter was doing a story, and the headline was, African Americans are jealous of the African immigrants. And I met the reporter and I said, if you put that, then we'll sue you. These individuals live together. They live in a community that almost everybody suffers. They suffer injustice, poverty, violence. This is not one group against the other. It is the community reality. And, we went back and forth, I said, we will not participate in this, and we don't want such a language, to be perpetuated. We are one family. We may come from different backgrounds, or we may arrive here differently, but we're one family and we want to maintain that. And that's what the story was never ever published. And so that's one of the stories that we always fight. In 2013, there was a city council race because Helen Diane Foster, was leaving and there was a vacancy. So 5 African immigrant candidates were among the candidates running, and the current board president, Vanessa Gibson, was brought in from the assembly to run for the seat so that the seat will remain within the African American hands. And we had a meeting at my office, and the meeting was that no matter how much you want to be elected, we will never ever use divisive rhetoric, dividing our communities. We can all vie for the same position, but we do it as a family. And from day one until the end, we never ever use African immigrants versus African Americans. We always, come as a family, obviously running for the same seat. So we're cognizant of it, but the leadership is very strong in making sure that such a divisive rhetoric will never ever be tolerated or normalized.
Let me go outside of the cityscape because I remember my trip to Kenya and spending time in Kenya. It was amazing that people in Kenya say to me, I didn't know America was like that. And then I, from the American side, said, there are parts of Africa that I didn't know was like that.
Correct.
Because for so long, we've only gotten certain pictures.
You got Tarzan.
Right, right. So I said, right.
Yeah.
We got that's all we got.
Absolutely.
Huts, right?
Yes.
But the reality is, Africa has booming economy
Yeah.
in some areas. The Black Panther movie wasn't far off.
Correct.
Right? And
Correct.
there's a whole lot that needs to be said about Africa. So part of what you do is you're also organizing tours too.
Yes.
Internationally.
Yeah.
To have people take a look
Yes.
at Africa.
Yes, absolutely. I travel all over the world, and my goal when I travel is to see what makes a place either advanced or not advanced. Everywhere that I go, my goal is to see what makes them advance. The educational system, the innovation, the startup, so-called programs and everything else. I do the same thing in Africa. Africa is the first and most consequential continent in the world. A continent, the only continent that sits in the middle of the universe, that is close to every other continent, yet we have the least trafficked continent. The reason for that is people do not get the right message, from Africa. Let me tell you a joke. Dean Meminger, New York.
I'm already laughing.
Yeah, Dean Meminger. I called Dean Meminger after the fire tragedy that killed these African kids, and I said to Dean, "You're my friend. You guys have done a wonderful job. You must accompany these bodies so that you can show it to your viewers, because New York City deserves a continuation of what happened. You have done a great job. Let them see the other side." And Dean said, "Are you crazy? Traveling to Africa?" I said, "Yes." And then finally I talked to Dean's boss and everything, and when he agreed to go, I met him at the airport. Half of his suitcase was all kinds of medicine, snake medicine, everything. He thought that he was going to be dead. And I'm saying this to say, if Dean, educated, well-traveled, reporter, has that type of feeling, imagine ordinary people who have never had that chance. And there are many, 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 many stories. In 2017, I was on a business trip in East Africa. And I was traveling from Nairobi, Kenya, into Arusha, Tanzania. And it was late afternoon, and the sun was setting. I have never experienced such beauty, the sun reflecting these mountains. I mean, they're so beautiful. So I told the driver, even though I'm an African, but I live in New York for too long, I forget nature. Can we worship nature a little bit? So we came out, and then, we watched the sun setting, watching these mountains. From there, I said, the world needs to know the other side of Africa. They're looking at Africa as a dark, desperate, impoverished continent. This is not the truth. So that is how Daylight Africa came. So now, let's create the Daylight of Africa. And for 7 years, we've been writing and corresponding to governments and authorities. And finally, last year, we launched it. And we took people who never ever, by the way, traveled, not even Africa, but anywhere else. We took them to Senegal and Gambia for 9 days. They had a wonderful time. Now, again, our tours, it's not like we're showing the best of everything. We chose September because September is rainy season, so that you're exposed, to the difficulties, people face day to day. Because we want people to have accurate portrayal of what Africa is. We're not sugarcoating anything. We're not taking you to 5-star hotel so that you don't know the poverty that is affecting us. We want to show you everything. We travel on the road. You see it all. But at the end of the day, one thing they know, Africa is the future. Because every single thing that the world depends on and has been stealing out of Africa is still there, and they can never finish it. Today we're talking about, Niger just had a coup d'etat, and the whole world is going crazy. Because why? If you look at the Italians, the France, the Americans, all of them are there stealing and stealing and stealing what Niger has so that they can continue to develop. So you want people, especially the victims of transatlantic, enslavement terrorists, to have the same opportunity, to be able to go and see where they come from and the opportunity that lies ahead. The moment we build that family bond, the rest is history.
Yeah, when my African sister says it like this, she said the vibranium is real.
Absolutely.
Talk about the struggle is real, the vibranium is real.
Absolutely.
And that meaning there's a lot of opportunity, and there's some things that people really want from across the world that sometimes we take for granted on a day-to-day basis. So as you have people who travel to Africa and they have a new perspective of what Africa looks like, what does the tour consist of? Because you said you get to the rough part, but then at the same time, you also have the opportunity for them to embrace community and community leaders.
Absolutely. Two things that we did as part of the tour. Number one, before we went to the United Nations, and then we formulated 7 points that we want every African government to agree on. Those 7 points includes every person that comes out of the transatlantic enslavement terrorism, meaning that every victim, if they go to Africa, they are not going as a tourist or guest or stranger. They're going home. Therefore, every right that they had before they left the continent will be automatically restored. Meaning that if they want to buy a home, they have the same right as the person born and raised there. If they want to open business, they do not have to be entangled with taxes or foreign whatever. When they go to Africa, they go home. And we push that. Now, we started with Senegal because last year, the president of Senegal was the chairman of the African Union. And then we went, same thing with the Gambia. Now, we are going to Washington, D.C. to meet with every ambassador to have them sign it so that every African-American, Afro-Latino, Afro-Caribbean that travel to Africa will travel there as somebody who, went overseas and coming back. You're not going there as descendants of this and that. You're going there as an African, that maybe overstay on your vacation or whatever, but now you're home and all the rights that the citizens of Africa, have, you also, have it. That's one thing. The other thing that we also did with these stores is that we've seen almost on a weekly basis a lot of these young Africans, mainly, boys, risking their lives trying to escape out of Africa to go to Europe. These are economic migrants, and now we're experiencing, one of the largest right here in New York City. We're saying, let's change that. You're coming out of the most resourceful continent in the world, a continent that the West depend on for the economic development. Something is not right, so we're working now with the top African universities to create centers where we can retain intelligence. We can help them. At the same time, we're working with multinational corporations so that they can outsource some of the work that need to be done. A lot of the work that I do, guess who do the work? The Africans. A lot of my job, we publish 4 newspapers. Everything, the layout, everything is done by the Africans. A lot of people don't know. My operation pretty much is in Africa. People don't ever think, this magazine is done in Africa. So we want that, people that have jobs that are shipping it to China, to India, to begin looking Africa as an outsourced outlet. And so that these kids, will have, some things to pay their bills and, maintain their lifestyle without escaping to Africa. Because what they're going for Europe, they can gain, in Africa with little help. So those are the 2 programs that come, with this, Daylight Africa tour.
So say somebody can't have the resources to actually make the trip, go to Africa. What can we do here, locally, to embrace Africa and support?
Yes, technology allows us now to create a family setting because right now even the villages that I've never known, they're on Facebook, they're on, WhatsApp and everything else. What we can do here, there are a lot of churches, there are a lot of religious, organizations, especially churches, that have for years and years and years, putting programs that really enlighten the general public about Africa and the need, for reconnection. So I would say, search which church or which religious organization, mostly Christian organizations that are very, very connected to the continent and support them, support their thing. They take kids, they take their, congregants. They have connection to the continent, and those are the places that you need to support. Not multinational charity organizations that have offices in the highest buildings in the West. Right. Just go to the local churches and local schools that have connection and support them.
Daylight Africa Week is coming up, and that's coming up soon in September. Tell people the dates.
Absolutely. I am taking a beautiful group again. We're leaving JFK September 2nd. We're going to be there until September 10, September 11. We're going to be in Senegal. Senegal is where Gorée Island, the door of no return. Every victim of the transatlantic enslavement trade need to go and see the door of no return. The moment you stand there and you're looking at the ocean and you know this is the final step from your continent to the Western world, and you also look to the right and to the left, you see the dungeons, small places, no window, and they put hundreds of people. You see, you say to yourself, my great-great-great-grandparents came out of this tragedy. Everyone needs to go there, because the moment you go there, you know, you have a different perspective. So I'm taking a group to Senegal and Gambia, and we're leaving September 2nd. We're coming back September 11th. And if you want to go, just let me know. If not, every year, you know, September 2nd to September 10th has now been officially Daylight Africa Week on the continent. You can come from all over the world. You can go for whatever reason. Let us know, and we'll facilitate that trip.
And I see also in your travels, you also have the father of Akon.
The father of Akon was so happy, and the reason for that is Akon has been one of the, you know, voices that are saying to the African Americans. He said, I grew up among you. I know the environment, and I know the mentality, and I know also the education, and I know the misunderstanding of the continent you have. I want you to come home and see what I saw. And this way, at least, you know, what you think is Africa is, you will see the opposite. And so the father was there to really say that, you know, they're in support of, you know, this initiative. So, you know, we're happy about it.
Sheikh Musa Drammeh, got to leave it there. But thank you.
Absolutely.
So for people who want to find out more information, again, let's give it to them before we go. How do they get it?
Absolutely. DaylightAfrica.org, DaylightAfrica.org, or you can Google it, Daylight Africa, and you will see me speaking to everybody about Daylight Africa.
All right. Well, listen, taking a quick break. We'll be back with more right after this.